Hello everybody, guten Tag and welcome to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Laura, who can't speak German.
That's okay, I can't either. I can say like 5 words.
Okay.
But we are talking about a place in Germany today, a place with a cool train. Have you ever taken any really long or interesting train journeys?
Not super long ones. The ones I've taken are probably just here in Taiwan. So they won't, usually within an hour or two I'll get to the place. So
Fair enough.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure in Europe there are a lot of long rides, train rides.
There are. In fact, the longest I've taken is in the UK, which is London to Edinburgh, which is 6 or 7 hours. So a few times I've just taken an overnight train. You go to sleep on it in London, you wake up, you're in Edinburgh.
Wow.
It's pretty easy. I've also taken one part of Ontario and Quebec in Canada. But that was done in stages between 2 or 3 different cities.
Wow.
If we'd come all the way from Vancouver, we would have been on that train for like 3 days.
Are they comfortable?
Yeah, it was.
Sleep
it was
over
the sleepers going from London to Edinburgh are pretty comfortable. Noisy, but not too bad. It's an interesting, fun experience. As is taking the train in today's article. So let's read through day 1 and find out all about it.
Reading.
An interesting transportation solution. Futbertol's floating train. Have you ever dreamed of riding on a floating train? Well, this is not a new idea at all. You might be surprised that this already became a reality over 100 years ago. The creation of the Futbertaler Schwebebahn, a suspension train operating in Futbertal, Germany, made it possible. German urban planners wanted to create an effective means of transportation for an increasingly industrialized city that often flooded. They designed the suspension monorail to solve this problem and opened it to the public in 1901. The public transportation system uses 20 stations over a distance of 13 kilometers. It can reach a speed of up to 60 kilometers per hour and reaches the end of the line in about 30 minutes. This monorail transports more than 80,000 people daily. During World War II, the monorail was damaged by airstrikes, but it later returned to service in 1946. A publicity stunt by a local circus had an elephant go for a ride. The elephant got scared of the noises the monorail made while it was moving and fell out. Luckily, the elephant dropped unharmed into the river below. Today, the monorail still operates with modern additions. It has made the city of Futbertal famous around the world.
So first, let's look at our title, an interesting transportation solution, Wuppertal's floating train. Now we're going to look at one of the words in this title, transportation. Transportation is any means or method of getting people or things from one place to another place. So these could be public transportation, like buses, trains, and planes, or private kinds like cars, scooters, and taxis. We could also talk about transportation for goods, so big ships full of cargo boxes, or trains that carry loads of like gas or oil or things like that. For example, we could say, the public transportation in this city is great. It has a good subway system and lots of buses.
Nice. Transportation 真的很重要，也就是我们每天或多或少都会用到的交通工具，或者它还有运输的意思哦，它是个名词。For example, you could also say people need to get out of their cars and use other modes of transportation. 这样子比较环保 It's more environmentally friendly. For example, bicycles are a cheap and efficient form or means of transportation. 像是脚踏车啦，就是一种非常便宜而且非常高效的交通工具，而且非常环保哦。
So that's the title, but the article begins by asking, have you ever dreamed of riding on a floating train? Have you?
Oh, I've dreamed of riding on a flying train.
Flying, yes.
Yeah,
different from floating.
Yeah, imaginations. Yeah, 所以可能没有，但是飞起来我觉得倒是蛮酷的哦。Okay, let's continue reading. Next, the article says, well, this is not a new idea at all. 所以这完全不是一个新的想法，我还在想说这是天马行空的。It's not?
No, it sounds like a dream, but it's real, and this is why. The article says, you might be surprised that this already became a reality over 100 years ago.
就是100年前就有这样子的 floating train. And where is this? We see that in the article, the creation of the
Wuppertaler Schwebebahn.
Right? A suspension train operating in
Wuppertal in Germany.
Right? Made it possible. Thank you, Pat.
No problems. Those are difficult words to pronounce.
I know. 所以这个想法其实在德国就实现了，是在德国的乌帕塔。OK， 就有这样子的德国乌帕塔的悬挂式的铁路我们也可以称它为乌帕塔电车哦。
Right. And it's a creation. This is a creation of the people, the engineers, and so on. Because a creation is something that is created. Somebody imagined it and then made it. So an artist, their creation will be paintings.
Wow.
A chef's creation could be an amazing dish. Here, this was like engineers and kind of mechanical scientists, and their creation is a floating train.
但我们来看一下 creation 这个字刚刚有提到，就是有创造或是创造物，它是一个名词。那其实它是源自于动词的 create， 就是创造。那如果我们要形容有一个人，哇，他非常有创意的，我们则可以用这个形容词 creative。And of course, the creation in this case is a suspension train.
Yeah, the important word here is suspension. When we describe something with the word suspension, this means it's hanging or suspended, to use the verb, from above. So for a suspension train, the track is above the train and the trains are held in place and move on these instead of like our MRT where it's the train on top of the tracks.
超酷的耶 Suspension 其实就是悬挂的意思，它是个名词哦。And we also learn where this train operates, a place in Germany.
That's right. This suspension train operates in Wuppertal in Germany. To operate means to work or to be running. Basically, it's in use. You can go and buy tickets and get on it. And that's what we're saying here. This train runs in this particular city, Wuppertal in Germany. People built it there, and so if you want to ride it, that's where you go. You could also talk about a computer operating. That means it's working. It's doing stuff. Here's another example sentence. The MRT usually stops operating just after midnight and starts at 6 a.m. the next day.
And we also saw the verb operate, right? 就是使什么东西运行啊，或是操作。像是常常我看到一些机器，我就不会操作，我就可以这么问啦。How do you operate the remote control unit? 你是怎么操控这个遥控器的？ OK， 或者你还可以说 changes are being introduced to make the department operate more efficiently. 这里提到的则是这个部门正在推行改革，以提高工作效率，让它更好的运行哦。So why did they build something so unusual in the city?
Right, why not just like an ordinary like MRT train?
Right.
Well, we see in the article that German urban planners wanted to create an effective means of transportation for an increasingly industrialized city that often flooded.
Oh.
Right, so it's all related to kind of what happens in Wuppertal. And we have a few words to look at here, starting with urban. Urban means in the city, in some kind of built-up area with lots of roads and buildings and so on, not like the countryside. The countryside, we use the adjective rural. But for cities, we use the adjective urban. Urban planners are people who kind of plan out that area. We could say, for example, I spend most of my time in urban areas. So going to the countryside seems like a vacation to another country to me.
So true. Like if you go to Hualien.
Yeah, it
like
really is like going another country.
Right. Urban 其实就是比较像都市的，对不对？那刚刚 Pat 还有补充解释，如果你要提到在 countryside， 在比较乡下的地方，你可以用 rural 这个字，就是郊区的。那看回 urban， 常常我们会提到什么呢？ urban development 就是城市发展啦，又或者呢，常常我们可能会提到这是不太好的消息。Pollution has reached disturbingly high levels in some urban areas. 这个是蛮容易看到的就是在比较市区的地方，可能就会造成非常多的污染。Or you could also talk about this. The speaker gave an interesting presentation on urban transport, which is what we're talking about.
Yeah, and it was important for Wuppertal to have this because it was an industrialized city. We actually say increasingly industrialized, so it was getting more and more industrialized over time. If we describe something as industrialized, it means it has a lot of industry. So a lot of factories, a lot of places that are making things, but also something that's industrialized has modern transportation, modern things, modern ways to get around. So it's not like a country town with just maybe one bus or people going around in horses and carriages. This is a modern city with modern buildings, modern factories, and modern transportation.
刚刚是不是还提到一个有点难的字，就是 industrialized 这个形容词，就是工业化的。应该你们比较熟悉的是它的名词 industry 那所以我们课文提到就是德国这个城市就是 Wuppertal， 它是个工业化的城市，不过这个城市似乎是会淹水。我们刚刚是不是有听到 However, we know that Wuppertal gets flooded.
That is right. So a flood as a noun is when there's lots of water from rain or other places that gets somewhere it shouldn't and covers the ground, usually with very deep water.
Right.
Now, as a verb, to flood is when this happens and water covers everywhere. When an area floods, the water comes out of a river, or there's just too much rain, or it could be a big wave from the coast and so on. Places in Taiwan often flood because of typhoons. That's a pretty common cause. We could also say, there was a problem with my sink, and now my kitchen is flooded.
No, disaster. 一般呢 flood 我们可以当作名词来用就是有淹水、洪水啦。不过在本课呢 flood 则是当作动词来用有使淹没啦，或是使某个地方充满着水淹水这样的意思。比方像是这也是一个灾难Our washing machine broke down yesterday and flooded the kitchen 怎么都是这个厨房会一直闹水灾他说我们的这个怎么样洗衣机昨天坏了，然后把厨房里弄得到处都是水。不过通常我们害怕的则是下面这个例句 The whole town flooded when the river burst its banks 就是河水决堤，整个镇子都淹没了。I get it. So if there's often water everywhere, this town needs a train in the air.
Right. And we then read that they, so that's the engineers or the city leaders, the urban planners, they designed the suspension monorail to solve this problem and opened it to the public in 1901.
Wow.
So monorail just means one track, basically.
Yes.
It's just one track going around.
所以文章有说明他们设计了这个悬挂式的铁路来解决这淹水的问题然后呢，哇，真的是很久以前1901年公开给大众。那我们也来看看 monorail 这个字它的字首 mono 其实就是表示单一的、单独的 one OK 那所以 monorail 就是 mono 跟 railway 这两个字组合成的，就是单轨铁路。那这种铁路能够怎么样适应比较复杂的地形起伏，也常应用于人口比较密集的城市Next, the article tells us about the train. This public transportation system uses 20 stations over a distance of 13 kilometers.
Okay.
所以他们有20站，然后总共有13公里长。
That's probably quite small compared to like Taipei or London or certainly Tokyo's MRT. But Wuppertal is not too big a city. And remember, this is up in the air. So it's still pretty long. We also learn that so the train, can reach a speed of up to 60 kilometers per hour and reaches the end of the line in about 30 minutes. So you get on at the first stop and it's only 30 minutes to get to the end. So that's pretty convenient and quite quick.
Right, 所以他们时速是60公里，然后呢，可以到達最後一站，差不多在30分鐘之內哦。And here are some more facts. This monorail transports more than 80,000 people daily. 一天可以承载8萬人耶 So convenient.
Yeah, it's pretty useful. Now we're going to find out about some of the interesting moments from the monorail's history. We see that during World War II, the monorail was damaged by airstrikes, but it later returned to service in 1946. So that's only 1 year after the war ended, so they fixed it pretty quick. Now here we looked at airstrikes. The word strike is like an attack of some kind of hit. It could be a punch or a kick, but here we mean an airstrike. So this is when a plane either shoots with guns or, more likely, drops bombs on an area. During World War II, of course, many airstrikes took place. The German planes struck the UK, Allied planes struck back and bombed Germany, and so on. For example, we could say this town was hit by an airstrike in which many soldiers, as well as some regular people, were killed.
提到了这个世界二次大战就有很多的难过的事情。我们来看一下 strike 这个字哦，在本课是当作军事上的攻击或者是袭击，所以 air strike 加起来就是空袭啦。Okay, for example, the United Nations has authorized the use of airstrikes, 就是联合国授权采取空中攻击。又或者我可以提到 The violence is unlikely to stop without military strikes against terrorist bases. OK, 这是另外一种军事攻击，就是 military strikes, 就是对恐怖分子的基地采取军事攻击，暴力袭击就不可能休止。So I hate talking about the war.
Yeah, and luckily we're going to leave it behind and get into a more amusing story here. Pretty crazy story.
I know, I like this one.
So a publicity stunt by a local circus had an elephant go for a ride. So the word publicity is the idea of getting people talking about it, making that thing part of the current news or whatever. Companies want publicity for their products. They want people to think about and talk about their things. Now, a stunt is something crazy or a little dangerous. It might work, it might not.
Right.
So if we combine these two words, we get publicity stunt, something a little crazy or unusual that a company or a group does to try and get public interest and attention and cause people to talk about and think about the things they want to sell.
Sometimes they're really smart.
Yeah.
Publicity 一般我们有着宣传的意思，就是要让 public 大众知道这件事情哦。那 stunt 呢，则是像一些噱头 ，OK。那本课合起来的 publicity stunt 指的就是宣传秀 ，OK。这课我们提到，我觉得这真的很有趣，在当地的马戏团，它的宣传秀就是有一个大象要去搭这个就是铁轨。就是我觉得这样听起来蛮夸张的，因为大象elephant is pretty big. 我觉得它应该塞不进去。I don't even know if it can get into the train. Okay. And the stunt used a circus elephant.
That's right. The elephant came not from a zoo, but from a circus. A circus is a traveling show with clowns, dancers, people who walk on very high ropes, and others who have various skills to perform in front of a crowd. Now, in the past, circuses used animals like lions, tigers, elephants in their shows, but that has almost completely stopped happening these days because it's pretty cruel. A circus is usually held in a big tent, and people come to see it, and everything can then be packed onto trucks or trains and transported to new locations. For example, we could say after the circus closed, the animals it used all went to good homes.
A circus, 就是马戏团。The children loved being taken to the circus. 孩子都喜欢大人们带他们去看马戏这个表演哦。那常常我们还会提到 a circus act. That's basically a trick performed in a circus. Or a circus ring, a large circular area where tricks are performed.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not sure if an elephant can ride on a train like a suspension monorail, though.
No, and you see, it didn't quite work. In the article, it says the elephant got scared of the noises the monorail made while it was moving and fell out.
No, well, I'm not surprised it was scared. Okay, 果然这个大象因为怎么样，铁路行走的声音，咣咣咣咣，可能吓死了。然后呢，竟然还掉出来。That sounds kind of dangerous.
Yeah.
But things didn't go too badly, though. The article says, luckily, the elephant dropped unharmed into the river below. 好家在它没有受伤，是掉在河里面啦。
Okay, well, the article then says today the monorail still operates with modern additions. So they've kind of made it safer, added some other things, and so on.
And we finish by saying it has made the city of Futbertol famous around the world.
Right, maybe one of our watchers will go and check it out one day. Now let's go to today's For You Chat question. So today's chat question is, which form of transportation do you think is the most convenient and why?
I would say the airplane, but not the safest though. I don't know.
It's convenient if you're going a long way.
Yeah, okay.
But
so
you wouldn't
talking
take it to work.
No, probably here in Taiwan would be the MRT. I like taking the MRT more than taking the bus.
Yeah, buses are often tricky, especially for people who don't speak Chinese too well, because you're never always completely sure if the bus is going to the right stop.
Oh, right.
You have to learn the routes and maybe use an app.
You could take it the wrong direction and then you'll be getting off somewhere.
Exactly. It's not quite so friendly to non-Chinese speakers as the MRT is. And of course, with the MRT, I've been here like 10, 11 years now, and the MRT has grown so much. Like looking at a map of what it was like when I came here against now, I'm like, these are just so different. All these, it's going all into New Taipei City and everywhere. So that certainly does make it, and it's big, and it's got elevators and escalators all around to make it easy to use the stations. There's maps in there, there's toilets, there's all sorts. So yeah, I think I have to vote for the MRT as well.
And if you missed one, you know there will be one coming very soon.
Exactly, in just a couple of minutes. So I mean, if you wanted to go around to other parts of the country, maybe a car. Certainly, if you're going to, I'd say East Coast, probably a car. West Coast, the HSR.
Oh, yeah.
Probably.
高铁.
Yeah, for convenient transport, but just the car on the East Coast, so you can look out the window and see the stop in all the nice places. But yep, those are our answers, and that is all for today. Thanks for watching, everyone. From English for You, I'm Pat.
And I'm Laura.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Vocabulary Review. Transportation. I ride a bicycle for transportation because it's convenient and good for the environment. Operate. John has to operate heavy machines at work, so he always needs to focus well. Urban. Shopping centers, nice restaurants, and big businesses can all be found in urban areas. Flood. The rain from the storm flooded our classrooms and damaged a lot of things. Strike. The military strike during the night was successful. Most of the enemy soldiers were asleep at the time. Circus. People in the past usually made circus animals do dangerous tricks, but now we have laws to protect them from harm.
智慧小补帖
Creation. Suspension. Industrialized. Publicity. Stunt.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net